This episode is brought to you by Snapple. Want to know another Snapple fact? The first hot air balloon passengers were a sheep, a duck, and a rooster. Ridiculous. Check out Snapple.com to find ridiculously flavored Snapple near you.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and those who don't identify as either, you are listening to Ratchet and Respectable. I have the biggest crush on this city. Things that used to annoy me in London happen in Paris, and I'm just like, oh, it's Parisian. This place is so god-awfully just sexy as fuck. Like, it's raining right now. I don't know if you can hear it. It wasn't supposed to rain today. I check the weather app every morning, no sign of rain. It's currently raining, and the weather app is like, oh yeah, it's gonna rain in 2 hours, but not now. But I'm looking at the rain. Okay. But it's raining, and it's just like beautiful. Like, everything about this city is just magical. I know I've only been here 4 days. Surely this will wear off at some point. But right now, I'm just like happy. Remember, I was in Johannesburg and I would go to Cape Town and I'd be like, this is my happy place. I love it here. The power would be off in Johannesburg, the load shedding. I can't believe I lived through that. That was such an ordeal. But the load shedding would happen in Johannesburg and I would be absolutely miserable. And then it would happen in Cape Town and I'd just be like, well, you know, these things happen. What can you do? That's how I feel about Paris. It's my Cape Town. I love it here. I hit the ground running. I got in on Monday. I recorded the pod on Tuesday, so I was in the house most of the day. And I told you I had stuff everywhere. I'm trying to be more disciplined about my exploration in Paris. The last 2 cities I've lived in, I've been there for 3 months. In the last week or so, I'm always trying to cram in a million things that I didn't get done. And I always leave feeling like, oh, I didn't see this. Oh, I didn't see that. So I'm trying to be more mindful on the front end of things. So I try to do something every single day. Even though I just got here on Monday, and even though on Tuesday there was stuff scattered all over the apartment and bags and clothes, and the place ain't but so big. So, you know, I'm stepping over stuff to get, you know, from room to room or down the hall or even out the door. I just left it because I had things to do out the house. And I was like, it literally will still be here when I get back. So on Wednesday, I went to the Yves Saint Laurent Museum. Amazing. Not quite as good as the Dior exhibit, but very good nonetheless. The designer actually launched his career as a designer for Dior and then started his own fashion house. But he used a lot of Black models. And the current exhibition, I don't know if they called it color blocking, but that was the draw for me. The model and the outfit that are used in the ad, it's Iman from like, just based on the color blocking, I'd say it was late 80s, early 90s. But Iman was in all the ads to go to the museum. So I was like, well, let me go see Iman, or her outfit, at least. It is on display. But it's a cute museum, not very extensive. As a general observation in Europe, whenever they do exhibitions, especially fashion, it tends to be really, really, really extensive. This one, not so much. More oddly, video of fashion than actual like mannequins with the clothes on. Interesting choice. But it didn't have a lot of space either, so they made do with what they had. The videos are really good though. It's just hard to capture them and share with you all. I posted a little bit of my visit on Instagram. I put it in my highlights of Paris. It should be the first highlight that comes up on my Instagram page if you're interested in seeing it. And then when I left the museum, it looked like on the map that this other museum, I'm going to butcher the name of it. It's the Museum du Orsay, Orsay. I'm sure that's not how they pronounce it in France. One of my really good friends, last time she was in Paris, she said it was her favorite museum, but she said when you go, you'll be there for hours. And the last couple of times that I've been here, I've been on a huge time crunch, so I didn't get a chance to see it. But I have nothing else to do on Wednesday, time, space, and opportunity. So I was like, well, let me go since it's right there, or it looked like it was right there on a map. It was only like 25 minutes walk. This is how I end up doing like 10,000 and 14,000 steps every day. Because I'd be like, oh, it's only 25 minutes. I'll just walk it, as opposed to take the train or get a cab. But it was a good walk. It was a really nice day out. And I ended up staying in the museum for 5.5 hours. Really extensive museum, a lot of Black stuff. I shared that on my Instagram page as well with at demetriallucas. I know some people listen to the pod, but don't follow any of the social media. I go to art museums mostly because I like portraits of society women from 19th, early 20th century. That's when they're like really releasing the fabric. Everybody's walking around in ball gowns. It's like day wear. But to see the clothes and then the artist's rendering of the clothes, how you can look at a picture and be like, oh, that's silk. Oh, that's chiffon. Oh, that's velvet. And then, the way the light hits it, and then like the lace and the ruffles and the draping of the gowns, the designs on the gowns, it's all just, ugh. But that's a huge reason why I go to art museums. And this museum didn't disappoint for that. And they also have this exhibition, Degas, Monet, Van Gogh. They had Starry Night, which I saw the painting and I immediately thought of John Witherspoon. Right after he passed away, his son posted, JD, posted a video of he and his father in the studio together, and his dad, John Witherspoon, was singing Starry, Starry Night. And as soon as I saw the Van Gogh painting, I thought of John Witherspoon. Extensive exhibits, and then lots of Black stuff. I love to go to museums, again, especially in Europe. It's harder to find in the US unless you go specifically to an exhibition that's about Black stuff or a museum that's about Black stuff. You just don't very often see Black history, Black art mixed in with everything else. The US just got problems. I mean, everywhere got its problems. Certainly France does. But their museums, they mix it all together. Lots of really good Black art, even if some of it was like straight up racist. Like there was this one really, really beautiful sculpture. There was a sculpture of, I think, a Sudanese man dressed in Algerian clothing. And the title of it was something with the N-word. And I was like, oh God. And the museum made a point to say this was the original title. They pointed out that it was in poor taste, but beautiful work nonetheless. Just, racist. That was Wednesday. And then Thursday, I went to a chateau outside of the city. It's really, really beautiful. It's like a full-on, I don't think I've ever seen this before, like a full-on castle with a moat. You have to cross like, I wouldn't say a drawbridge, but a bridge to get to the castle. Like it's a legit moat. And then it also had a tower outside the castle, a Rapunzel type tower where somebody could be like held up in prison. It was real like Rapunzel, let down your hair. Like it was beautiful and huge. I was like, this is amazing. You know how I feel about my architecture and my old homes. But I thought that was going to be like a half-day thing. When I read online, it was like, oh, it's only an hour from Paris, or you take an hour to one train and then there's another train that's 20 minutes. And I was like, okay, cool. And then I was trying to, just plan out the trip so I knew what time to like get to the train station and everything the following day. Come to find out, it was actually 2.5 hours each way. And I had to take a total of 5 trains to get there and 4 trains back. And that was the easy route. And I was like, oh, you're kidding me. I had it in my mind that like, okay, like it's going to be a forever bop to get there and then a forever bop to get back. I just would have had my mind in the right place. But I was like, oh, like I'll get up like an hour before I have to be there and just take the train and it'll be fine. And then I ended up spending literally 13 hours outside the house. I literally was gone for 13 hours. Yeah, because I left the house at 5:45. It wasn't even light out when I left. I left the house at 5:45. I didn't get back until like 6:45. It was a day. I mean, it was worth it. It was beautiful. I saw very beautiful things that made my mouth drop. Gorgeous views, beautiful gardens. I ate at the chateau, but I was like, sis, you got to plan a little better. And then today is pod day. So I don't plan anything on Tuesdays or Fridays, just so I can focus exclusively on the pod and then anything that needs to be done around the house. So I woke up this morning. I had planned to do it last night. I just didn't have the energy after being out all day, and actually cleaned up the apartment, like unpacked the suitcases and put everything away and figured out how to make use of my teeny tiny airplane sized bathroom where stuff can actually go. So it's convenient. So I'm not going to grab my toothbrush and deodorant out the bedroom when I need to do my morning routine. So I think I figured it out. The apartment actually looks like a sane person lives here, as opposed to like stuff everywhere. So it's good. Like I feel, I don't want to say settled in Paris, but I feel more settled in my apartment. Oh, and remember how I was telling y'all how like I was really like kind of freaked out about moving to a country where I don't speak the language? Everyone here speaks complex English. Full, complete, and fluent English. I try to speak, at least be polite. Like, bonjour, s'il vous plaît. And they be like, yes. I'm like, oh, English? Like, yes, you can speak in English? I'm like, oh, merci. Okay, you're welcome. Everybody speaks English. I asked for a phone charger the other day. I was 2 hours from Paris and my phone was at 10%. And I was like, I'm fucked. I was like, this is like Lisbon all over again, except the phone actually can work. It just needs to be charged. I remember the charger. I forgot the cord. So I asked one woman and she didn't fully understand what I was asking. So she was trying to help me find an outlet. And then I was like, no. And I managed to explain like through hand signals in broken French. And I was like, no, I have a charger. I just don't have a cord. And she had an older phone, so she didn't have one. And so she was like, maybe you can ask someone when you get on the train. And I was like, okay. So I got on the train and I asked me, there's a black guy next to me who had on his headphones and then a guy sitting across from me who had an iPhone and no headphones. I was like, excusez-moi, s'il vous plaît. He didn't. But then the black guy with the headphones on heard me asking. And he was like, what do you need? He reached in his pocket and gave me a charger. And I was like, merci. Okay, you're welcome. Oh, petty. The men here are fine too. The black guys don't really talk to me like that. But the North Africans, I would call them black. They would be offended if I called them black. So I'm just going to go with North African because that seems to work with them. They also don't refer to themselves as African, even though, you know, from Morocco or Algeria or, you know, North African places on the continent of Africa, but will be deeply offended if you call them African. I think you specifically have to say North. Just to say African, they feel away. And I was like, really? Here? They treat y'all like shit just like they do black folks. From Africa or the Caribbean, but they're actually okay with black Americans. It's weird. The social construct of race is bizarre. I understand black and white based on an American understanding because that's home. But, you know, it's a complete social construct. So every society constructs how they deal with race in a different way. But it's all, no matter where it is, whether it's the U.S. way or the Ghanaian way or the South African way or the British way. It's just all on some real Rodney King. Why can't we all just get along? Which is kind of inaccurate. It's like, why can't white folks just stop oppressing people and men stop oppressing women and cis women stop oppressing trans women? People curse me out real bad over the concept of, you know, trans inclusivity. And it was all black women too. And I was like, you know what it's like to be discriminated against, either for being black or for being a woman, especially the combination of such. It's like, are you going to just go ahead and discriminate and be evil to other people? You know how it feels. And yet you do it anyway. I guess that's kind of like very white womanish. Like, you know how it feels to be discriminated against as a woman, but you go ahead and just discriminate against black folk, black women, and don't think no two ways about it. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Comparison is the thief of joy, and it's easy to envy other people's lives. It might look like they have it all together on their Instagram, but in reality, they probably don't. Therapy can help you focus on what you want instead of what others have, so you can start living your best life. You are a listener of this podcast, so you know that I am a huge advocate of therapy. I think everyone should have some, especially the people that think they don't need it. Friends, you are the people that need it the most. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online and designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. I love how easy BetterHelp makes it for everyone to access professional help. Stop comparing and start focusing with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/ratchet today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/ratchet. I know that none of you watch porn, but just in case you have any friends that do, help me pass along this important PSA. Incognito mode does not make you incognito. Check the fine print. All your late night activities are still 100% visible to a ton of third parties, unless you use ExpressVPN. Protect your online privacy today by visiting expressvpn.com/ratchet. That's EXPRESSVPN.com/ratchet RESSVPN.com/ratchet. And you can get an extra 3 months free. expressvpn.com/ratchet. Speaking of that, we'll talk about Iggy Azalea in a minute. Cause girl, I actually had a segment in Tuesday's episode about her when I recorded it, and I took it out because I was like, I kind of felt people were going at her a little hard. When she wrote this letter to the judge about Tory Lanez, she said, I guess we're talking about it now. Her version of events was she said that he should receive a sentence that, and I'm paraphrasing, focused on rehabilitation, but it shouldn't be something that, I don't know if her word was ruined or disrupted or destroyed his life or something like that. But after it was leaked that she was one of the people that had written a letter and then things that she had said, she wrote, I don't know if it was 10 points, like 8 bullet points, clarifying. And she was like, 1, I wrote a letter to the judge. This was never supposed to be released to the public, is what I was told. She was like, I suggested, I think she said something about like 5 years, not 10. She said she didn't pick a side in the story because there were so many, and this is a quote, oddities in the story on both sides, so she didn't choose. And so she really felt like people were making a big deal out of nothing. She was like, I believe in prison reform. It sounded well enough. And the point that I made in a podcast episode, and I was like, people just don't like her, and that's why they're going so hard about it. I was never an Iggy Azalea fan. Like, I just kind of felt like she, when she was cosplaying as a black woman, essentially. And I was like, she might be right. She might have a point, but I don't really feel like I have to be the one to say it. Whenever white women get into, messy situations, it's always a bunch of people who will run to their defense, especially black men. And I was like, she'll be all right. She don't really need me to waste my breath to jump in that conversation. So Tory gets sentenced. The judge gave him 10 years, which I think is fair. But after he gets sentenced, the judge, the court, the prosecution, somebody releases all of the character statements that people had written on behalf of Tory Lanez. So we just talked about Iggy, and she was like, I didn't choose a side one way or another because there were so many oddities, but he asked me to write something for him, and then so I did. What is their connection? How are they this close? I'm not writing a character statement for anyone unless we've been like friends for more than 20 years. Like, I could see maybe if she was like, okay, T.I. needs a character reference. Like, T.I. put her on. He made her famous and helped her earn millions of dollars. I could understand T.I., but I was like, Tory Lanez? So again, she said she didn't choose a side in the situation because there were so many oddities in the whole story. The character reference determined that was a lie. She told the judge that if he wasn't sentenced to jail, that she would personally employ him. Really? She vouched for that man like he was birthed from her canal. Like, she went hard. Let me see if I can find the Iggy Azalea letter. Because I was like, girl. Vibe has a full letter. It's 3 pages. She told the judge he is not an abuser. And she said she would know because she's a victim of abuse herself. She said Tory Lanez had been nothing but lovely and respectful to her. She said, quote, I deeply appreciate the person he is, and I have never witnessed him lose his temper or raise his voice at a woman. He's always been incredibly respectful of me, and I refuse to believe that he would do anything in malice, especially to a woman. She also told the judge, she said, like yourself, I'm great at what I do and am well respected by my peers. Lies from the pits of hell, ma'am. Lies and fabrications, ma'am. Oh, this is the word I was looking for earlier. She asked the judge that Tory Lanez's sentence be transformational and not life-destroying. Vibe also reposted her bullet points where she said she hadn't been in touch with Tory for months. So y'all not even really close these days. And he still asked you to write a character reference and you said yes. Am I built funny? Because I would have been like, She described him as the type of person who is, quote, watering and shining light on others until something beautiful grows. They used to vote. I know he a little man, but maybe he not little in all parts because this is wild. She said that if he is not deported, she'd already lined up work for him as an executive producer on her next album. And she revealed that she'd hired 6 of his staff members as she's, quote, doing all I can to make sure he's in a position to come home and get back to work. All this for somebody she said she ain't been talking to? Really? Okay. I'm not going to say all white women can't be trusted, but between Jennifer Aniston and this chick, it's been a bad week for trusting white women in the public eye. If she just sent the letter and people found out about it and she never said anything, like, I just let it be. She wrote a real indignant list of bullet points. I would never. And then the letter revealed that you did. Ma'am. And good black news this week. It's nothing significant. You know, Cookie and Magic are still on that damn boat. The Johnson, Magic and wife Cookie. You know, they go on this yacht. To call it a boat is actually kind of rude. They rent this yacht every year. It's been at least that they've been sharing pictures online. I would probably say 4 summers, maybe 5. And again, this is just them posting. They may have been doing the yacht a lot longer than that. But they rent a yacht every summer. They usually go for, I would say, 2 weeks to a month. They have different events aboard the yacht. So sometimes it's like couples week on the yacht, and they'll have, I think it was this year, it was like Judge Joe Brown and his wife, and then Samuel L. Jackson and his wife, Michael Jordan and his wife. There was another couple. There's a white couple that's sometimes on the boat. We've seen them before. Previous years, they've had Holly Robinson Pete and her husband are on the boat. LL Cool J and Simone, his wife, are on the boat. It's always couples. Kevin Liles and his then wife, Erica. It's a bad chick. I love that lady. They were on the boat. I think that's when I first started paying attention to it. Erica's pictures were freaking amazing, and her wardrobe. Again, I love that lady. She's like big sis in my head. It's always good grown black excellence. But this year, I think this is the longest they've been on the boat because it's over a month at this point. So they had the couples week, and then the couples left, and then it was family week. So EJ was there. The son, I think that's Andre. And then his family, they've got 2 grandkids. They were there. The daughter was there. And then they left. And then Cookie and Magic just been cruising around. I think most recently they were in Montenegro. They've been posting the outfit of the day without calling it that every day. They're eating at the best of restaurants. And they're just hanging out on this damn boat. Yacht. And I was like, what left did I make in life that I didn't end up with a yacht life? It's not too late for me, is it? I don't need to live on a yacht. I don't even need a full month on the yacht. Can I just have like a week on a big ass yacht? I read the yacht was $1 million a day. Or was that Steve and Marjorie's yacht? They usually do a big ass yacht every year too. I saw Marjorie's, I don't even know what to call him. Is he the ex-husband? Is he some man? I think he might be the father of the oldest 2 children. So I think Lori has a different dad from her brother and sister. But he did an interview with Tasha K. He's written a book. I guess it's an expose about Marjorie. Somebody sent me a link on Facebook where he's advertising his new book. His own version of speaking about Marjorie, he says they were together when she was 19 and he was 31. And he said that she was all about money and she ran game on him. And I was like, so you was a 31-year-old man and got fleeced by a 19-year-old? You're dumb. Your version of events makes you sound like an idiot. The other thing he says, and this is when he's advertising the book, he says they dated way back when. And I just also like to point out, Marjorie is 57 years old. He's talking about from when he dated her at 19. Also, he says he and Marjorie kept in contact up until she got with Steve. Okay. You kept in contact with her until she met and married her husband. What you telling me is that like when she was a single woman, y'all still dipped and dabbled. And then when she started dating Steve, who became her husband, there was no more dipping and dabbling. Sir, that's how it's supposed to go. In promoting this book, he's admitting that he's not had contact with this woman since before she married Steve. Steve and Marjorie have been married for 15 years. Now, you know I really do like Marjorie Harvey, but even if I didn't, sometimes you just got to point out some shit. Sir, you trying to tell us that Marjorie's all about the money? Yeah, we know. You trying to tell us Marjorie used to date drug dealers? Yeah, we know. We don't care. Sir, the woman is 57 years old. You trying to go back and talk about shit that happened when she was in her teens and 20s and maybe 30s at latest. Sir, it's really not that interesting. I don't know what they could say about Marj that they haven't been saying. Because they say she dated drug dealers. That's pretty much been confirmed. They say she dated somebody and then he got locked up and then she started dating his cousin. I was like, is this man the first cousin that she dated, or is it the second cousin? If true. I like Marjorie. If Marjorie was into some scandalous shit, I'd say, oh no, not the Marj. I don't like to hear it. We would have had a segment where I said, oh dear, inside a lot. You know how like when I like somebody and I got to talk about some terrible things that they may be engaging in, I'd be like, oh dear. It's just not the case. Woman's 57. Like, I kind of wonder, like, when does a woman get to move on from her past, if ever? Because the picture that the guy is using to promote his book, it's a picture of Marjorie. She's super young, which is some real predatory shit. Like, even if you can't move on and you decide to go full Irv Gotti and just, like, want to talk about 20-year-old shit from somebody you used to date or be in a relationship with, like, okay. But when I was reading the comments section, like, people were really kind of into it. And we're really, like, dragging Marjorie. This woman has been married with no scandal about the marriage at all. Like, nothing. The biggest complaint people have about Marjorie, they're like, oh my God, Steve is working all those jobs and Marjorie's spending up all that money. Steve likes that shit. People are always like, oh, it's Marjorie. Marjorie likes to stunt. Steve also likes to stunt. Marjorie is not forcing him to wear all these fancy silks and linens. He likes that shit. You could tell by the way he walked when he got it on. They like to stunt. He went and found somebody who he could stunt, who likes to stunt like he does. She taught him how to do it with a little more finesse and razzle dazzle. At what point do people, particularly women, because I feel like men get to move on. Like, men do some shit and then the following day you'd be like, I can't believe you did that shit yesterday. And a guy will straight face ask you, like, you still bringing that up? It happened yesterday. Women, some shit happened. Like, oh, you still bringing that up? It happened 30 years ago. And it's all just so grossly unfair. You know, it's funny. I'm watching this documentary on Netflix. It's called Ladies First. It's about women in hip hop. There was a huge uproar about it because people were like, Nicki Minaj isn't featured. I've watched 2 episodes. In fact, the first episode, the first 5 to 10 minutes, Nicki Minaj is shown at least 5 or 6 times. Just because she wasn't in the trailer. It's a whole lot of shit that wasn't in the trailer. It's like at least a 3-part series, 1 hour each, and maybe longer. I can literally vouch for there were 3 parts because I watched 2 and there was a next episode and I was like, let me stop watching TV and actually record the podcast. Nicki Minaj comes up repeatedly throughout. And there's also a ton of other people in the documentary that come up repeatedly throughout that were also not featured in the trailer. People dragged that documentary so bad. It was like, Nicki Minaj isn't in it. Nicki Minaj isn't in it. She is. She's not interviewed, but there's a lot of people that weren't interviewed. So far, Cardi hasn't been interviewed either. They talk about Cardi. But they also talk about Nicki Minaj in the documentary way more than they talk about Cardi, even though Cardi is like probably the biggest female rapper right now. It's the story of women in hip hop. It's very thorough. I mean, Roxanne Shante is there, and MC Lyte is there, and Queen Latifah, and Yo-Yo. They talk about Lil' Kim and Foxy and Lauren. It's very interesting. Like, even if you think you know stories, unless you're like Clover Hope, who wrote an entire book about women in hip hop, you probably don't know all the ins and outs details. Like, I watched the movie about Roxanne Shante. Just watching this documentary, I felt like, I learned things that didn't come up in the movie. Like, I knew Roxanne was really young when she became a rapper and when she started getting big attention. I don't think I realized that she was 14 or 15. I'm sure that's said in the movie, but because the actress playing her was older, it just didn't resonate. There's a song, Roxanne, Roxanne by UTFO, and then Roxanne, the rapper, responds to UTFO. I think that's Roxanne's Revenge. And that's how she starts to blow up. And then all these other people start responding to Roxanne. And then she's just battling with all these different rappers. And again, she's 14, 15 years old and listening to the song. I don't know if I ever heard it before, or not as an adult, because I didn't realize how young she sounded. She sounds like a little girl, but there's grown ass men. KRS-One was one of the people who responded, and he said something like, I don't remember the exact quote. It's the equivalent of her only use is to be fucked. And I was like, did he know he was responding to a 15-year-old girl? I know it was the 80s and I know it was a different time, but like, she's literally a child. There was another response where somebody was like, yeah, Roxanne can suck my dick. It was just so vulgar. And I was like, she's 14 or 15 years old. She's literally a girl who sounds like a little girl. And this is how grown men are responding to a child? Men ain't had a lot of decency for a really long time. But it's a really good documentary so far. If you have the time to check it out, it's worth the sit. And again, I know we touched on it, but there was so much. When the trailer for this documentary came out, Nicki's fans, the Barbs, they're just a very, very vocal, maniacal, if you will, group of people. But they were so outraged. Like, Nicki's not featured, and how do you do a documentary without Nicki and Nicki? I mean, maybe they went in and added a bunch of Nicki in response to the backlash. I do know in response to the backlash that the producers had mentioned that Nicki wouldn't give clearance for her music. And I was like, does Nicki own her shit to give clearance? I don't know. But Nicki didn't give clearance, and I don't think she participated. But she's prominently featured. Nicki Minaj was not left out. She's one of the best-selling female rappers ever. I can't see, even if, there was a desire to be spiteful, it would be a huge, huge oversight or misstep. Not even oversight. It would be a huge misstep not to include her. You'd be leaving out like a large chunk of the story of Black women who are rappers. At least in the forefront, it was just Nicki for like 4 or 5 years. All the awards for women in rap, like, it automatically went to Nicki until Cardi showed up. So if you were staying away from the documentary because you were like, oh, they did Nicki wrong, maybe there are Barbs among us. But Nicki has not been left out. She's prominently featured. She is included. Just FYI. I would have recorded the podcast a little earlier today. Not that it's late. So when I got up earlier today to clean up the apartment, I saw there was a new series on Netflix that had, what is his name? Sarah Jessica Parker's husband, Ferris Bueller. What is his name? Matthew Broderick. And then also Uzu Adobo, Suzanne, Crazy Eyes from Orange is the New Black. They're pretty much the stars of it. It is amazing storytelling. I want to say it's like 5 or 6 episodes. It's riveting. It's about the opioid epidemic. Remember Oxycontin? It was everywhere. It was a really, really big drug. It was approved by the FDA. It was also incredibly toxic. It was essentially like heroin in pill form. But it's the story of Oxycontin and how addictive it was and how the company knew and didn't care and how they made so much money and how the sales force was also addicted to the money and the sales teams were a mess. And I don't want to say more because I want you to watch it because it's really good. But it puts a really human face on the company as well as the people who were harmed by taking Oxycontin. And one of the ways that the documentary does this, I don't think I'm giving anything away. When there's a work of art that's based on real life events, that there's often a disclaimer that says this is based on true events, but, it has been fictionalized for dramatic effect and any relation to, real people is blah, 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 blah. The people that they have reading the disclaimer are parents of people who have died from taking Oxycontin. It's a really good series. I don't know the true events to know how much of it is condensed or fictionalized for TV, but the gist of it of, this company knew they were selling this terrible product, essentially. That part we know is true. I think they said 500,000 people have died from Oxycontin. The overall story is just, it's like a horror film. But the acting and the storytelling and the way it's just all put together is just really, really, really well done. Like, I only intended to watch an episode. The house was clean and I was like, what else can I do so I can keep watching this? And I was like, well, let me go ahead and wash my hair. Then I had to sit with the deep condition. Then I had to twist and, blah, blah, blah. I ended up watching the whole damn thing. That good. One sitting. Did a full binge. I haven't done that in a while. All right. That's our episode. I feel like there's something I'm missing. Some big story. But I can't remember what it is. Of course, as soon as I finish the episode and send it in, it'll come to me because that's how it always works. I don't know. All right. Whatever it is, we'll talk about it next week. All right. I'm going to edit. Talk soon. Bye.